Hello everyone, it's Kristen here at Joyfully Thriving, and every once in a while I try to take some time to answer some of your questions because I know you have a lot. I try to share and answer in the comments, and I'm there showing up for you guys because I love this community that we have, but I know there are sometimes random questions that don't always relate to grocery hauls, so that's what we're doing today. It's time to answer some of your questions again, and we've got some good ones. So I'm just gonna dive right in, grab your favorite drink, grab some sparkling water, and let's get going here. We're gonna start with Lisa. Lisa asked, any place in the world you would like to visit but haven't yet? I've made it to all 50 states. My husband and I both have, but I definitely want to go to Europe. We have not made it to Europe. I've been to Mexico, Canada, China, and Japan. My husband's been to Australia. We want to go to Europe, both of us, and pretty much any place in Europe. Germany, Italy, England, lots of places on my list. There are so many things to see. We love to travel, but just in general, Europe is high up on the list for sure. Sharon asks, have you tried your green thumb at growing food? How do you store your veggies in the fridge? And your favorite song or band from teenage years? So those are all good ones. Okay, green thumb. Yes, we do have a garden. I grew up in Texas primarily where things did not grow well. But my husband here in Indiana, things do grow a lot better. So yes, we've had a garden most years. We have one. We typically plant a lot of Roma tomatoes and peppers because I do canned salsa. So that's what we like to grow. We've tried cucumbers and zucchini periodically. We've done pumpkins more so for the kids. Although I have frozen pumpkin puree from that. We've tried carrots, although those didn't seem to do so well for us and weren't worth our time. So we stick mainly to tomatoes and peppers are what we grow. We've tried corn, a couple other things, but that's what we have in our garden right now. And this year we have again. Oh, we did pickling cucumbers this year. I'm hoping to make pickles. So last year they didn't do well. So we'll see. We got no cucumbers last year actually. So hopefully this year they do better. Veggies in the fridge. I just keep them in the fridge. I have a video on carrots, and I do try to slice up our carrots for the week, and I put them in a canning jar with water, and then they're ready to go whenever we need carrots. Otherwise, they're pretty much just in my produce drawer. I try to prep some things when I get them, like if it's peppers, I'll slice them, or cucumbers, cauliflower, broccoli, those type of things. Lettuce, I'll just wash it as we are ready to use it and have it ready to go. So nothing all that exciting, just kind of the basics, probably like you all do. And favorite song or band from teenage years? I was a Stephen Curtis Chapman fan, still am. Listened to a lot of him, Michael W. Smith. Those were my years. Lost and Found, although that one's, you probably have to be Lutheran to know Lost and Found and have gone to National Youth Gatherings. So if you do know Lost and Found, let me know. But Stephen Curtis Chapman was probably one of my favorite bands from when I was a teenager. Angie asked, will you do more of Feed Your Family videos? I love watching what others come up with during pantry challenges and stuff like that. Thank you, Angie, for always watching and being so sweet. Yes, I will do some more. I don't know how often. I feel like our meals aren't that exciting. They're pretty basic. And I have learned putting our meals out, like when I did an entire month of them, it's one thing to share groceries. And I don't mind, like everyone shops differently. Everyone's gonna have opinions on what I buy. To some people, I buy too much produce or not enough fresh produce. Sometimes, I don't have enough meat. Sometimes I have processed food. Sometimes I have packaged food. Sometimes I'm buying ice cream or lots of cheese. Everyone has opinions on my groceries. But when you start sharing your meals, people really have opinions, I discovered. So, and it's just a lot of work because when we were sitting down, all of a sudden it's like, wait, I didn't film that. I forgot to do that. So yes, I'm trying to figure out how to do that better. But I will keep that in mind and try to get at least one or two of those in every couple months or so because yes, I know it is helpful to see what regular moms are feeding their families. It's nothing that extravagant. We don't have tons of fancy sides. So if that's what you're looking for, well then yeah, that I can share. So I will see what I can do for you. Connie asked, how do you find the Markdown Meats? I go first thing in the morning and I try in the afternoon and still can't score. Any help on this would help. Okay, this is tricky, I know, because it varies so much by store and not every store has it. Now, Walmart. I've been in Walmart recently and I have noticed they are starting to have some more. I found those kind of mid-morning And for me, the Walmart markdowns on meat have been in the center aisles, like by the cold freezer things. But you know how generally there's like those freezer things before you hit the aisles? They're like in those middle sections. And it's just random. Like I never know a rhyme or reason as to when it's there. I have seen them in the late afternoon. Bread markdowns are always at Walmart, but they had some meat the last couple times I found some deals there. Kroger, for me, it tends to be first thing in the morning at my Kroger's, and produce tends to be later in the morning, closer to lunch. That just seems to be what I've noticed. Now, I have been to a couple different Kroger's, and this is why I say it varies so much by store, because I have one Kroger, actually the closest Kroger to me, does not have a ton of markdowns on meat. But this other Kroger that I go to closer to school has a lot recently, and they've looked better. So I think it really depends on the store. Your best bet is probably to ask someone in that meat section in the butcher department and just say, hey, do you mark down your meat and when do you do it? Because they would be best to tell you. I've heard from some of you that say you do not see markdowns, meat markdowns, because your stores donate to them food banks, and that's just what they do in that area, which is a great thing. I mean, I'm happy for that too. So it could vary. Your stores just might not be marking down a lot of meat. But I always say for all markdowns, it's worth knowing what your stores do. It's worth trying different stores, trying different times, but your easiest way to figure it out for you personally is probably just to ask someone. Okay, moving on. Someone asked, how do you get a gift card from Fetch? I need to film a whole video on Fetch, and it's coming soon. It will, I promise. I have a whole list of videos in the queue here of things I want to do. So many ideas and so little time. But I do have a brief video on Fetch and 4 of the top apps that I use. Fetch is definitely one of those. I will leave a link to that video below because it gives you a quick overview. What it is, basically Fetch, so you scan your gift card, you scan your receipts, and when you accumulate enough points, you can redeem for a gift card. So you redeem them, and then it takes generally, they say about 3 days for you to get the email notification. And what it is with those, like sometimes it will email you the link with the code, like an Amazon code or a Panera code or a Starbucks code, and you can load it to your digital account. Sometimes, like with Kroger, I just recently did it. It was a visual gift card, and CVS too. This works on Fetch. So when I go into the store, I actually open up the Fetch app, and under my rewards, then I can see that gift card and I can scan it in store. So they are not physical gift cards. Way back in the day, like 10 years ago, places used to send out physical gift cards as rewards, but you can't get that anymore. They are all digital. So it's basically once you redeem your points, you will get a digital gift card, either that you load to your account or that you scan in store. So that's the 2 options. And again, I'll get that video on Fetch up for more details and to show you all of that. But in the meantime, go ahead and check out that video link below. Moving on, Gemma asked, what made you decide to stockpile first? And as there are a few items that can be cheap, what do you choose first when stockpiling? Good question. So I really started stockpiling probably when we were newly married. Well, I was doing this when I was single a little bit, but when we were married and I started really shopping the deals, and then when we became pregnant with our first, and I knew we were going to a 1-income family. We have always budgeted on my husband's income, but when I knew we were going to be a 1-income family, I worked really hard at starting to get ahead on the deals. And at this time, CVS was amazing at all the deals. They had so many deals. I basically spent $100 for an entire year of diapers for my son because I was just rolling deals and stacking deals at CVS and grocery stores and all over, because couponing, it was really at that height back then. So that was kind of how I got into it. And then I just started really watching the sales. And the more I did it, the easier it became because I had more wiggle room in my budget. I would say when you're starting to stockpile, it feels a little overwhelming at first because you're spending more money to know that you will save money. But hang in there, because eventually your budget will come down once you start having food on your shelves, once you have built some of a stockpile. As for what to stockpile first, it really depends on you. It depends on, because you have a couple ways you could go about it. You could start with like the cheapest items. You could just go to the store, stock up on a bunch of pasta that you know is very shelf stable. It will last a long time. And some of your basic canned goods, your canned vegetables. That's a great way to do it. They're cheap, they last a long time, it starts you in your stockpile. The other way could be to focus really on what's on sale on any given week and just say, hey, every time I see a really good sale, I'm gonna grab one extra can of this or one extra jar, one extra box, and I'm gonna put it on my shelves and just limit myself that way. You could also do it with a dollar amount and just say, I'm spending $5 every week just specifically to build my stockpile. And I did just film a video on that about how to use $5 at Walmart and all the different things you could get for under $5. But you could apply that concept anywhere. Or you could just say, I'm gonna buy 5 cans of anything. And over the course of a year, think how much your stockpile would grow. So it really depends on you and what you're comfortable with. And of course, what you are using and what you eat the most, because you don't wanna put things in your stockpile that you're not using. So I'll link that $5 video below, but hopefully that helps, Gemma. Angela said, speaking of stockpiling, how far in advance are you comfortable stocking? I've heard everything from having a 3-week stash to having a year's supply. I know, it's really overwhelming, and it is, I don't ever want on this channel to cause people to panic buy or any of those things. I am a firm believer in building a stockpile on a budget and building it with time and building it slowly to focus on the things your family uses. Personally, my goal, I would love to have 6 months to a year of a stockpile. I do not. 6 months is my goal. I probably have at a good solid 3 months. I have 6 months of some things. I have over 6 months of other things. But as a whole, I would say I'm in that 3 to 6 month range. And it's really using baby steps. You just have to start slowly. I think if you're starting to stockpile, you work on having enough for 1 week and then 1 month. And then you add it to 2 months and 3, and you're just slowly increasing. And again, for me, when I'm shopping the sales, some things, like if I see a really good sale on pasta, or at Thanksgiving time when canned veggies go on sale, I will buy enough for an entire year at a time because those deals are so good and they're shelf stable. So it really just depends what your ultimate goal is for your family. I want to make sure we always have food on our shelves. My stockpile's a practical emergency fund. I've said that before. If something were to happen to us income-wise, if there was an illness, job loss, any of those things, I have food on our shelves that I know I can feed my family. And it also allows me to be generous because I am able to share with others. I'm able to cook for others, host people, have other people over because I have a stockpile and I'm shopping on a budget. So start slowly, start with a couple weeks, and then slowly work your way up to with what you're comfortable with, but it really is personal for you and your family. Like I said, 6 months is my goal, but I've been working on that a while, and we'll see if and when I ever get to that. You can follow along and see if and when I make that goal. Okay, hopefully you're folding laundry or doing other things as you're listening, but here's a couple more questions we have here. So these are some good ones. PJ asked, how did you get started doing videos and shopping the way you did? Well, shopping, I feel like I kind of answered that because it was when I started staying home. I had a little bit more time. I wasn't teaching full time. And so I focused on stretching our money and shopping all the sales. And I have to say, it's the way I grew up. My mom shopped a lot like this. It was back in the day, like when you had your coupon binder, and we would clip coupons for her and file them in, and we always used coupons, and I did that a lot too. So I grew up this way, and then I just slowly added more of the stockpiling element as I was shopping more of the sales. So that's how I started shopping that way. And then because I was shopping that way, I had a cousin, and years ago we'd get together, and she and her husband were like, you should start a website. And so I actually started a website. It's been 15 years. It's hard to believe. 15 years ago I started a website, and at that point it was just more a hobby blog. And about 12 years ago, when my first son was born, when I was pregnant with him, we knew I was going to stop teaching and stay home. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn this blog, my goal is to turn it into a part-time income for our family so that by the time the kids are back in school, I don't have to go back to teaching if I don't want to. So that was kind of where that started. So slowly over time, that website just grew and did start becoming an income for our family. I had an Etsy shop along the way. And a couple years ago, I've always enjoyed talking and speaking to people. But I just felt like, you know what, there's a lot I have to say that I can't communicate as well. As much as I love writing on my website, I just can't communicate it as well as I could if I did videos. Because I used to share like my grocery hauls and pictures And I would do that on my website, but it just took so long to explain everything, and I'd have to sit down and type it out and take the pictures. And I was like, this would be a lot easier if I could just lay out my groceries and talk it through with everyone. So that's kind of how I started. I'm coming up to almost 3 years on YouTube, which is hard to believe. It'll be 3 years officially in August was when I started. And I just kind of one day was like, I was talking with some blogging girls. I'm in a little mastermind group with some other moms. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And so that's how I started doing it. I still use my phone. I just started filming and sharing those deals and talking through everything. And I discovered this amazing community that also loves talking about grocery deals and how to save money. And then my goal was, because I knew the hauls were being watched by people all over, it's always been my goal to share tips and strategies that apply to anyone, whether you have the stores I am shopping at or not. Because I know sometimes we're watching deals and we go, that would be amazing. I wish I could shop there. Well, yes, we can still get excited over the deal, but I want it to be a place where there are always helpful other strategies to help you save money at your stores. And then everyone else has just kind of chimed in on the comments, and that makes it a really helpful place to learn a lot of things and find a lot of good deals. So that's awesome. So that's how I started. Hopefully that helps, PJ. Okay, let's jump to Cass's question next, because this kind of fits with YouTube. She asks, any creators you follow for grocery or meal planning? I really like Frugal Fit Mom. She shops very similar the way I do, and just finding the deals and stockpiling. But meal planning, the one I would watch the most is probably See Mindy Mom. I will just kind of stumble across a lot of different people at different times, but she is the one I consistently watch, because again, I find all of her meals just very practical. They're real life. They're not anything fancy. She's very good, and she's been around for quite a few years. I think she's been around for 7 years now, I just saw. So she has so many videos that have a wealth of different recipes, and they're all meal planning on a budget, which I appreciate very much. So those would be my recommendations there. If you have others that you like, let me know in the comments, because I'm always checking out other people and checking those things out. Sarah asks, would you ever consider going back to teaching? That's a loaded question. If you've been around here and followed me the last couple years, you actually know that. So I was a trained teacher and taught for 10 years before I had kids. I still am a trained teacher. And I taught preschool and kindergarten, 3rd and 4th grade, and music at some different Lutheran schools. And then when we had kids, started staying home. And then 2 years ago, I went back part-time, and I did teach kindergarten for a year when my daughter Lily was in kindergarten, because we just were really struggling to find teachers. I had another teacher who stepped up with me, and we decided to co-teach. So I taught mornings, she taught the afternoons. It was not how I expected my year to unfold, but it turned out to be a really good year, and I loved teaching with her, and it was neat to have my daughter Lily in class. So at this point, no, I am not going back to planning on going back to teaching, but I know God's plans can be different than mine. And I know there is definitely a shortage of teachers right now. The interesting thing and the unique thing for me in this circumstance is that I do have this business that a lot of people don't understand, but that my website and Etsy and YouTube together, it's really those 3 streams, do provide an income for our family where I'm at home. And I can do that from home, and I can make a very good salary without returning to teaching and all the grading and all those different things. So as much as I love it, and my heart will always be in teaching, I kind of think that right now, for this season of life, as our kids get older, they are getting busier, that my husband as a principal is very busy and lots of meetings. I don't have plans to return to teaching, but I know God could have different plans for me. So we will see. We will see indeed. All right, and one more question. Jordan asked, tips for going back to school, school supply shopping, and school lunch stocking up. My biggest tip is start early. I just always find that the earlier you can get it done, the better it is for everyone. It's one thing crossed off the list, and you're more likely to find those sales and deals. The school supply sales start pretty much right after July 4th, so that's a good time to start watching. I will say that we actually did school shoe shopping already this month in June because I knew my kids have to have school shoes, obviously, and then they keep a pair of gym shoes at school, and so they all had to have those things. And because they keep them at school, I try to just buy a cheap pair of tennis shoes that can just be worn on our old gym floor, and I don't want to spend a ton of money on them. So I made sure we went out to Walmart and Meijer and we found those shoes that we needed before everything was picked over. So part of it is you want to get it done while you still have options. I have noticed in the last couple years, stores do not stock as many things as they used to, school supplies wise. So sometimes they run out of things. So that's the other reason you want to go early. But you also want to look around the prices. Walmart has very good prices on school supplies, obviously, but bigger stores, especially like Meijer, I have found for us, run pretty good sales. Kroger still tends to be a little pricier, but sometimes I actually can find the best deals on Amazon. So I kind of compare all those prices. If I find good deals on Amazon on school supplies, don't worry, I will definitely share those. It's my go-to place to stock up on Ticonderoga pencils, because they are really good pencils and they're expensive, but I can often find really good deals on them. So I just kind of look around. As for school lunches, again, I try to start early. August is a great time for all those things on the convenient lunch packing things, like the chips or the cookies or the applesauce cups and the peanut butter and the jam, all those type of things. Even if you don't use them on a regular basis, if you use them occasionally, take advantage of those sales that start happening in August and stock up, because you will save yourself so much money in the long run. So take advantage of those sales. And Sam's and Costco too. They run a lot of promos on their bigger boxes of those type of things. So keep an eye out on all of those. So basically, what am I saying? I guess I'm saying look around, compare all the prices, and shop the sales. It's kind of like I do for everything else, but it applies to school supplies and school lunches too. All right, I think I hit everyone's questions. Thanks for another great round of them. I hope you learned something and just enjoyed sitting here and chatting with me. Hope you got some things done as we were listening and chatting about all of these different things. And if you have more questions, let me know in the comments or save them for next time we do a round of questions. Either way works. Thanks so much for joining me here, you guys. I love chatting and sharing with you, and this was fun. If you want to check out some of my other Q&A videos that I've done previously, I'll go ahead and leave a link up here to one of those. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Bye.